Are there certain segments of this population or people from certain countries that are discriminated more than others?
Well, in the news today is a story of Ahmed Mohammed in Irving, Texas. So I don't think that we can forget the fact that what is happening to Muslims in this country is pretty serious. And in fact, Texas, we have two problems in Texas about this, right? One is the number of counties and municipalities that are passing so-called anti-Sharia bills, which Irving, Texas is one of these. And so you can tell there's a direct relationship between the kinds of prejudices that a student who's doing something as innocuous as bringing a science project to school gets seen in a particular way by law enforcement officials and the mayor of that town, who said some really unfortunate things today. But I also think that, like, in the history of racisms against Asians in the United States, there's been a direct correlation between military projects that the United States has in Asia and the kind of negative racism that Asians experience. So anti-Japanese sentiment goes on the rise during World War II. Anti-Vietnamese sentiment goes on the rise during the war in Vietnam. Anti-Korean sentiment during the war in Korea. And now that we have the war on terror, whatever that is, we have the kind of explosion of anti-Muslim sentiment in this country. And there's been a direct correlation between the projects of this country, both in terms of bringing people here so that we can be, laborers or professionals working to help build this country, but also in terms of subject populations that are seen as internal threats that have to be policed in some way. And I think that it's impossible not to talk about what is happening to, and I don't always think that Muslims are thought of as Asians in that context, right? And so there's a way that we can forget things like, the largest Muslim populations are actually not in Arab-speaking countries, but actually in proper in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, in India, right? These are the much more populous Muslim countries, and I think that perception too, as well, affects the way that.
In post 9/11, we in New York City, there was so many hate crimes against the Sikh community.
Yes.
And which they had nothing to do with any of the terrorist acts, and we are continuing to see that till to today. There was a case also in where a South Asian grandfather was thrown to the ground by the police, and also we're seeing a lot of bullying happening in schools post 9/11 against South Asian kids. So. I mean, it's alive and well, unfortunately, and it's not just a Texas thing. It's across the U.S., and it really does come down to what is that issue of the day that's causing this hatred.